Let's get across the market open now. Chris Weston joining us from Pepperstone. Chris, welcome back to you. Let's start what we saw on global markets overnight. A little bit of weakness there, particularly on Wall Street. In particular, those software stocks like Microsoft being sold off. What are you seeing more broadly in markets at the moment?
Well, I mean, I think equity market is still very much close to all-time highs, and you can't really get much more bullish than that. There's just really a quite active rotation between sectors and themes and styles, and within those sectors, there's big rotation as well. I mean, everyone focuses on the semis and tech and various factors, and you're getting consistent rotation within that. So, dispersions are clearly the name of the game at the moment. People are not flipping positions pretty quickly. But equities are holding in pretty well. We did see a higher oil price last night. Trump's threatening Oman, which is a bit of a new development there as well. Saying that he's got really no urgency on the timetable to get a deal. And crude prices trade above 91 in Brent, and we did see a bit of a steepening of prompt spreads and higher vol coming through. And I think probably one of the other stories is that we did see ultra long end 30-year Treasuries breaking out to 530, and the highest level since 2007, and that's the similar sort of thematic in long end bonds in Europe and various other countries as well. So I think a steeper curve, possibly weighing a little bit on the equity market story, the discount rate if you're using that part of the curve, certainly pushing up a little bit further. And I think we did see net equities a little bit lower on the day, which gives us a small headwind for the Asian Open coming through. But I mean, ultimately, the net change is not particularly huge, and a bit of a soggy session. Markets in the US sort of tailed off mostly from the open of the cash market, so closing not far off their lows. But look, I think it's a bit of a holding pattern. Volatility is pretty low at the moment, and there's not a huge amount of data this week to drive. So markets could be easily up again next to tonight in the US. So I wouldn't put too much weight on what we've seen here.
Chris, obviously the focus locally very much on reporting season. We've got some big results today, including BHP, CSL. In fact, time of recording, BHP just dropping. I don't know whether you've had a chance to look at the headline numbers there, but look, the focus very much on copper.
Yeah, what's I think 57% or so of their EBITDA is expected to come from copper. And then obviously the bulk of it then coming from iron ore, and a bit in coal. But certainly if you look at the numbers, I mean, I've just seen them flashing across the screen. I mean, we're looking at EBITDA coming through, underlying EBITDA for $32.95 billion. That's up 27% year on year. I think the broad consensus was looking for 32.47, so a little bit hotter on the underlying EBITDA. So I haven't seen the divisional split, but obviously we do get the precursor and we get the production numbers which came out recently, which were reasonably good. Net profit was up 30%, a little bit hotter. Dividend paid at 99 cents was not too bad. Capex was a little bit lower. You've got net debt, $8.69 billion. Again, that was a little bit lower than expected. So, obviously you have to look at what the guidance is in the statement, what they're suggesting. But the headline numbers themselves look reasonably good, and should reasonably please investors. They're not the sort of company that has a significant miss or beat relative to expectations. Analysts are usually on the money. I did see that the volatility markets, if we look at the options market, were implying about a 3.8, 3.9% move up or down on the day. So I think people were expecting a bit of volatility. I'm not sure necessarily the headline numbers are going to drive that. But going back to your point, I mean, copper's been on fire recently, and we did see a little bit higher last night. If you look at the backwardation in LME copper, it's very, very strong. I think people are incentivized to hold those long positions in copper futures, and you've got production outputs. Codelco have recently been cutting, so there's a supply issue coming through in an already tight market. And I think given what we're seeing, a lot of that copper moving out to the US at the moment, and I think that what we're seeing in the futures curve and the supply issues is really helping there. So I guess you've got that, but I think maybe to a small extent there's a massive move into AI. We've seen all that in the data centers, but more so in China now as well. That's really coming to its fore, and of course, copper very much involved in that. So I think the fact that they've done so well in the copper side of things has been good. But I mean, if you look out longer term, BHP has really I mean, the trade has been accumulate the stock below 57 into $55. That's been the trade that's really worked well this year. And I think people have been looking to sell out and massage positions back above $65. I think that's really the trade people have been looking for there.
Now, Chris, there's focus on upcoming IPOs. In particular, I mean, stateside, we're looking forward to Anthropic and OpenAI and just the vast amounts of capital involved there. Interesting what's going on in China at the moment. Shein is looking to raise as much as $3 billion, as is Unitree. So tell us a little more about this. So this is actually a humanoid robotics maker.
Yeah, I mean, China is the play when it comes to humanoid robotics and robotic dogs and various factors. And it's going to be one of the big investment themes. It's one of the big sections within AI, and it's getting into the commercialization stage. Now, China is the big play here. 97% of humanoid robots, come from shipments come from China, and there's really two major players there: AGI and Unitree. Now, Unitree have the big brand. I mean, in Spring Festival in China, you get these dancing robot competitions where humans take on robots. You get these half marathons, and you get fighting tournaments, and usually Unitree are very much in there. Now, I think if you look at humanoid robots and the PR situation and how people in the public, consider humanoid robots, it's very, very positive in China. Less so in America. I think people are pretty agnostic on the situation in Australia, but in China, it's a very, very positive situation. And now Unitree are going to be the first listed humanoid robot manufacturer and producer. They've got a huge amount of earnings coming from the US. Trump recently came out and put some import tariffs or some import embargoes on China humanoid robots imports. But Unitree are actually going to skirt that situation. They're going to be largely unaffected by that situation. So they're a massive player in this scene, huge revenue potential growth. The public love the story. It's a really well-known, very positive brand in China, and they're going to be the first a potential flex that you can get on this situation. Now, we recently had the CXMT IPO, and they're 9% of the DRAM market, the memory market. And so they're getting into HBM. They came out, I think they're up 431% on the day of IPO, on the first day of listing. You've got Moonshot, which is going to come out at some stage later this year. They recently came out their Kimi K LLM model, effectively that's the first open source model that's effectively competing with the big dogs on Anthropic and Fable 5 and bits and pieces. But Unitree they're going to be listing tomorrow. They're going to have their first day. We saw effectively the IPO oversubscribed by retail something like 5,500%. And our expectations is the stock's going to open up about 395% higher when it lists tomorrow. So the IPO scene is red hot. It's sort of conjuring up images of what happened in the 90s into early 2000s, where people in China saw IPOs effectively priced at such poor levels that it was almost free money, and there was almost riot. I think there was riots at one stage when people couldn't get their hands on enough of the IPO scene. So the scene's red hot. I think China are making an absolute statement here. They're coming out with DRAM memory plays to take on the US. They've got the humanoid robotics section, which is going to see significant growth over the next 5 to 20 years. And then you've got the open source model with Moonshot coming out later this year. So I think their scene's opening up, and I think they're trying to obviously tap up shareholders, for equity holders for that expansion plans going forward. So very interesting indeed. We'll see how it goes tomorrow.